some hills to climb. I've had some weary days and lonely nights. But when I look around, come on, sing it with me, country. And I think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days. I won't complain. Sometimes my clouds hang low, I can hardly see the road. I ask the question, Lord, why so much pain? But He knows what's best for me. Although my weary eyes can't see, I have to say thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I won't complain.
Yes, indeed.
Well, that's right, yes. That was a first. Congressman Davis,
Yes.
Paul Jakes doing a duet. Save the children. Save the children. Stop the violence. Stop the violence. Save the children. Save the children. Stop the violence. Stop the violence. Save the children. Save the children. Stop the violence. Hi, I'm Reverend Paul Jakes, and I would like to welcome you to Love in Action. Tonight, we will have Congressman Danny K. Davis, who has recently introduced a bill dealing with bail reform in the United States of America. Okay, thank you very much. This is Reverend Paul Jakes, and we want to welcome you to New Tabernacle of Faith Baptist Church and our new TV program, Love in Action. And we are glad to have one who has been a friend to our church, friend to my father and my mother, who have passed on now, and a good friend to me, Congressman Danny K. Davis. Matter of fact, years ago, I worked for Congressman Davis as a young precinct coordinator or a precinct captain, 14 years old. And believe it or not, I won my first precinct, going door to door. I had the energy then to make sure votes came out. But Congressman Davis is no longer an alderman, no longer a county commissioner, but he's gone through all of those different phases. He is now a U.S. congressman, has been in Congress for over 20 years. He is running for re-election, some real slick campaign information there, and he's got some real nice pictures with different folks, and we just want to just welcome him. And he's on the front page of the Crusader newspaper, which talks about Representative Davis introducing a bail reform package, and this is significant as well. You know, Congressman, back in 1965, the Voting Rights Act was signed into law August the 5th by President Lyndon Johnson, and it was quite significant to change the landscape for African Americans being able to vote without poll tax, without telling how many bubbles were in a bar of soap, how many marbles were in a jar. And it really made significance in our land. Now, you just recently introduced, January the 18th, 2018, a bill on Capitol Hill that deals with criminal justice reform, and it pushes back on money bail for the many people that are incarcerated that have not done any sexual crimes or any harm to anybody. Can you give us a little bit more about that bill? But let me just welcome you back, and I hope your family's doing fine and that you're doing good.
Well, Paul, let me thank you first of all. I'm just delighted to be here and delighted to be a part of this great communication vehicle which you are making use of to channel information into the minds and the hearts of people. You know, when you talked about voting rights, the real deal is that universal suffrage has never become yet what it ought to be. As a matter of fact, when the guys said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, they left women out. They left out people who did not own property. They left out people that they didn't feel had enough understanding to have the franchise, to be able to vote. And so everybody has not been voting all the time. And of course, as far as women, women didn't get the right to vote in this country until 1920. And that came as a result of tremendous advocacy on their part. That is, they marched, they demonstrated, they said to their husbands they're not going to cook. Some of them said, we're not going to have sex if you ain't going to be in favor of me voting. They did
heavy,
all kinds of things, and finally women got the right to vote. Well, African Americans still didn't have the right in a real sense, especially in the southern part of the country, where all kind of schemes and different things like all white primaries, the questions that you just raised, how many bubbles in a bar of soap, and all those things inhibited and prevented black people, former slaves, people who had worked to build what was then this country and what is this country now. They didn't have the right to vote either, or the opportunity. And after the Voting Rights Act was passed, there are still jurisdictions where the people in charge do everything in their power to make it difficult. For example, if you live on this side of the track, they may put the voting place on the other side of the track. And here comes a freight train. Now, some freight train that might take an hour
they
to
gotta
pass.
wait.
I'm saying, so you wait a while, obviously you leave. And so this notion that freedom is a hard-won thing. Each generation have to win it and win it again. And so I say that especially to millennials. individuals who sometimes don't know as much about the history of their being.
Yes, yes.
And you know, Marcus Garvey said, if you don't understand, people who don't understand their history or don't have knowledge of their history,
Yes, yes.
is like a tree not having roots.
You know, I really appreciate you saying that, because I was just thinking about how significant March the 7th was, 1965, when at Brown's Chapel, the church members at that church, they had the Lord's Supper that day. At least 100 of them then filed out to go and march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And one of those members is now in Congress with you that participated in that march. His name is Congressman John Lewis, and I think that he's still fighting a good fight as well, and it really made a very big difference for our community.
Well, you're talking about the iconic John Lewis. John,
Yes.
there's none quite like John Lewis. John has a moral compass that is inside of him, and it comes out. I am fortunate to serve on the same committee that Congressman Lewis is on. And that is the Committee on Ways and Means.
Absolutely.
I've also had the good fortune to serve on a subcommittee that John was the ranking member of, meaning that he was the Democratic leader and the Democratic spokesperson on that committee for whatever the issues were we were discussing. And so my eyes often just light up, my heart lights up sometimes when I just see John Lewis and remember the tremendous impact that
goodness.
he has had on the evolution and development of rights,
Yes.
privileges, and opportunities in this country. So,
And we couldn't forget Hosea Williams, also Reverend Hosea Williams, that marched with him, one that also was known not so much for the size of his church, but for the commitment and dedication that he gave to feeding people and marching and standing up. So we commend those individuals. And
well, I'm fortunate, Paul. I've had the opportunity to be in the presence of any number of those individuals. C.T. Vivian, Reverend C.T. Vivian and
Absolutely.
I went to Africa together in 1975, and we spent a month in Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh,
And so I went to Alabama one time to give a speech. People had invited me there, and then they told me, said, well, you're going to have to speak after Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth.
oh my
And I
goodness.
said, there's a blip, you know, you folks done paid my way
Yeah.
all the way down here to Alabama. And I thought you were my friends, that you liked me and stuff. And then you tell me that I'm going to be speaking after Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth. I say, you know, we ought to take a whip or something and whip all of you
Yeah.
out of here. So I've been very fortunate. I even
Yeah.
had the opportunity to march with Dr. King and to have the opportunity to come into contact
Yes.
with Dr. King and to know the exploits and to know Dr. King was the commencement speaker at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff the year before I got there. And of course it was not the University of Arkansas at that time. It was Arkansas Agricultural, Mechanical, and Normal College. And they dogged the president, President Lawrence Arnett Davis, Lawrence A. Davis, we called him Prexy, for having the audacity to invite Dr. King to be the commencement speaker.
Yes, sir.
And so he had to try to placate and live that stuff down because the white legislature, there was not a single African American on the legislative group. As a matter of fact, they're going to honor the first black man elected to the state legislature in the state of Arkansas after Reconstruction, a fellow named Henry Wilkins. I took a class under him at UAPB called Public Speaking. He was teaching.
Well, he was a good teacher.
He was teaching public speaking.
Yes.
And of course, Rodney Slater
Yes.
is his son-in-law.
Okay.
Rodney married his daughter, but Henry was the first African American elected, and he was the only person then that I knew in the state of Arkansas, black, that would talk about electoral politics with the idea that a black person could get elected.
Yes, yes.
And he did.
Well, you know, that's such an important piece because we just had an interview with Rod Joy and those that are listening to us out in Cook County in Illinois. We realized that automatic voting is very important, and soon the vote is going to come up for the primary on March the 20th, and that is something that everyone needs to participate in and to vote your conviction. You have an opportunity to do that. And
But you know, if you don't have a conviction,
yes,
then you can't vote.
that's right. That's right.
And that's why it is important that people pay attention,
That's right.
form an opinion. You can't be like a blank tablet and have no feeling about these things. Know the difference between different entities that are running for office. When I think of the behavior of some of my colleagues, especially in Chicago and Cook County, it pains me. It pains me. Some of them are like Judas goats. That is, they lead their people to be slaughtered. And you know, you've heard of a Judas goat?
No,
A
no.
Judas goat goes into the slaughterhouse on the way, and the other goats come right behind him. And when he gets to a point, he veers off,
Oh.
and the other goats go right ahead and are slaughtered.
My
and
goodness.
so I'm afraid that there are some Judas goats in our community who lead their people
yeah,
to be slaughtered.
Yeah,
I mean, how
yeah.
can you lead your people and say to them, look, I want you to vote for somebody that's been cheating you in terms of how much you're paying for tax.
Yeah.
Or I want you to vote for somebody who disrespects you,
Yeah.
and just go ahead and vote for them anyhow. I want you to vote for somebody
Yeah.
who's got the yoke of oppression around my neck and your neck, but I want you to vote for them. I want you to do it.
Well, you know, Emil Jones the other day mentioned that there is a gentleman by the name of JB that is a one-eyed Jack. One-eyed Jack. And I was trying to figure out what Emil was talking about. He was actually dealing with the unfortunate comments that J.B. Pritzker and former Governor Rod Blagojevich were making about black politicians and black leaders in our community, mentioning both Emil Jones and how he was crass, and Jesse Jackson Jr., and how he was not the person, and it just went on. Jeremiah Wright was even mentioned as well, and it just really became such a sore place for so many of us when this came out. Well, Congressman, what do you have to say about that? He even talked about Jesse White.
Well, you know, I think you respect. I pulled out an old Aretha Franklin song the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, RESPECT.
Yes, sir.
Respect.
Yeah.
If you don't have respect, then you don't have much of anything.
Absolutely.
And I think it is so unfortunate. It's also unfortunate that many African American politicians act as though they don't have minds of their own, that they're messengers for other people. And I know I'm going to get in trouble with some people when I say things like this. But, you know, were I so tall as to reach from pole to pole, or grasp the ocean with my span, I must be measured by my soul, for the mind is the standard of the man. So I had to watch. But my point is, these individuals, I mean, in order to get respect, you have to give respect. You have
Absolutely.
to earn respect.
Absolutely.
And part of earning respect is doing what you say you're going to do. Let me tell you, when I ask people to vote for me, I don't ask them to vote for me with the idea that I'm going to just represent my self-interest. I'm asking them to put their faith and trust in me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I violate
Sure.
their faith, what does the song say? A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky.
Yes.
What do I?
Mm-hmm.
If I violate the people who put their trust in me,
Yes.
then I am no better than a mongrel dog who bites the hand that feeds it. And so
Well,
I felt bad,
yeah.
but you know, I ran for office with the idea that I wanted to try and help bring dignity and pride
Sure.
to electoral politics,
Sure.
where people didn't think that everybody running for office is a snake,
Yes.
that everybody running for
Yeah.
office
Yeah.
is trying to represent something that gets them something for themselves.
Yes.
Everybody is trying to get over. No, there are some people who do in fact try and represent their people
Mm-hmm.
and maintain the trust that has been placed in them.
Absolutely.
I took a vote, some votes yesterday, last night, this morning, and each one of those votes, there was serious consideration
Mm-hmm.
to think. And if my trust betrayed, then I shall surely die.
Sure.
And I just hope that African Americans who take people's votes, when people vote for you, I remember Julius Nyerere saying to a graduating class in Tanzania that those who got this commodity called education,
yes,
could be likened unto a warrior in an African village where they didn't have much food and they were about to starve. But they took the little food that they had
certainly,
and gave it to this one warrior so that he could go to a neighboring village and bring back help. Nyerere say if the warrior takes the food and does not return, then he or she is a traitor. But if he takes the food and brings back help to his starving brothers and sisters, then he or she becomes a hero
yes,
or a shero.
yes,
We need our elected officials to be heroes
and you
and
have
sheroes.
become a hero and an icon in our land because there are events and legislation, the Second Chance Act that was passed and signed into law by President George W. Bush in 2007. What motivated you, Congressman, to do the Second Chance Act, and how are you now surviving since your unfortunately and untimely loss of your grandson who was murdered, and you then came with the 10-20-30 plan that would allow government funding similar to tithing to happen for residents who lived in poverty areas for the next 30 years. Tell, if you can, I know there's a lot of questions all in one, but please, what motivated you?
I think, first of all, I asked myself questions. And the question that I asked myself is, am I a soldier of the cross? A follower of the Lamb? Oh, if I must fight to win the victory, then that enhances my being. And so I don't take any of these things for granted. I was listening to a song the other day. It says, "Oh Lord, I want to be a Christian
Oh yeah.
in my soul.
Oh yeah.
Oh Lord, I want to be more like Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, I want." And so I have reached a point, Paul, in my life where certain things just don't necessarily be the greatest appeal to me. To me, if I can look myself in the mirror and say to myself, as my mama taught us, that I have to live with myself and so. I want to be fit for myself to know. I want to be able, as the days go by, always to look myself straight in the eye.
Yeah.
I cannot hide myself from me.
Yes.
I know what others may never know.
Yeah.
I see what others may never see. But above all, no matter what happens, I always want to be self-respecting and conscience-free. And so I want to
Very good.
When the time comes, I want to be able to believe that my Maker is going to look down at me and say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You've done what you could down here. Now come on up yonder
This is a
and
little higher, yes.
receive
Yeah.
your crown of life."
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, that may sound like pie in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it is probably pie in the sky. But if you don't have some faith
Mm-hmm.
and belief,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have a lot of stuff to work toward. If you don't believe in something, as my daddy would say, you'll fall for anything.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
if you
sir.
don't know where you're going,
Yes, sir.
any door will take you there. I mean, and so you need to try and be reconciled with yourself
Mm-hmm.
in knowing that I have a useful, purposeful being, that there is a reason
Mm-hmm.
that I'm here,
Sure, sure.
that I didn't just fall out of a Cracker Jack box, that there is a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and that's really what I want. I mean, that's what I want out of life.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Kind of deal with a little bit of this. I mean, we know second chance and then bail reform. These are some well thought out legislation. This here is something that I just think is just fantastic. I haven't had a chance to really comment on it publicly, but I want to thank you because there are so many people that are behind prison bars, and I don't know, you might be able to tell us how many are behind prison bars that would be eligible for this. But
Let me just tell you, every day there are probably between 400,000 and 500,000 people sitting in jail. Now, these people have not been convicted
Mhm.
of anything at all.
Okay.
I mean, they're just in jail. And they can't get out because if the bail is $100, they don't have $100. And so
They just stay in there.
you sit in jail
Mm.
until your court date comes. Well, you may have had a job when you got arrested or picked up or whatever,
Mhm.
but if you're in jail, the work that you were doing had to go on. So by the time you get out, guess what? Somebody else got your job. You
Or a mother,
or if you've got children, and many people who are in jail do have children.
Mhm.
Many of them
Mhm.
have children. For the last several years, these people are actually in prison. We take, before Father's Day, a busload of kids to visit their fathers in the penitentiary
It's beautiful,
at
Congress.
Sheridan.
That's great.
In the penitentiary.
Yes.
And to see the joy that some of them experience, to see the level of gratitude. The best experience we had was a fellow was just whining and groaning, and he said, "I guess my son didn't make it." And so Sharita Logan, who was with me that day, asked me if I would go over and try to talk to the gentleman and settle, allay some of his fears. And I sat at the table and we were talking, and his son was sitting at the other table. And his son got up and touched him on the shoulder and said, "Daddy, I'm here." Guess what? They had not seen each other in 8 years.
Oh.
They did not recognize
Did you hear that?
each other.
Wow.
The son was only about 8 years old the last time he'd seen his father. His father had been gone 8 years.
Had to be a joyous experience.
Now he's 16.
Yes.
The little boy was a little boy the last time his father had seen him.
Certainly.
Now he's 5, 7, or 8, and they didn't recognize each
My
other.
goodness.
They had a wonderful time. They did not leave each other's side the rest of the day until we left.
You know, Congressman, you've done a lot of things. I even went with you to a juvenile institution at Christmas time, to a house for people that are trying to get off of drugs. We went around to many different places, just helping even people that struggle with AIDS. You've been there, and the thing that would really interest me is that the congressman would sing some Christmas songs. Now, here we have live on our show, Congressman. He probably might not sing a Christmas song, but maybe you would sing one of those songs that you would sing when you feel like encouraging yourself, because this is a real great opportunity. And
Well, the song. Well, there are a lot of songs that I like, but one song that I really like is a song that Dr. Martin Luther King had a great deal of affinity for. I'm sure he had others too. But this song simply says that if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word, a song. And different people sing it different ways, If I can help somebody as I pass along. Just the little bit of word that infuses the idea that I'm not just me. But then there's the songs of motivation that sometimes I get to feeling, hey, maybe I'm in the wrong business. People really don't understand this stuff. And I don't have a friend. I ain't got no friends left. My friends are gone. But then, what a friend I have in Jesus.
Man.
All of my sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege it is to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Well, I tell you, those things kind of sustain me. Sometimes somebody will ask me what helps you, what sustains you, what keeps you going, what keeps you, well, that's what keeps me moving. That is what, the precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand.
I'm moved.
Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. take my hand, not somebody else's hand.
Yeah.
Take my hand,
Yeah.
precious Lord.
Lead.
Lead me on. Well, if you can't find solace somewhere,
Yes. Yes.
then what do I, in all my power, engage to do my master's will? So what, you only come through this world one time,
Yes.
and you give what you can give, and then when the time comes to cross over the chilly Jordan, and people who were faith-oriented had so many different ways of making that time. My daddy used to say, when I get down to the foot of the hill.
What's your dad's name? Was it
Hezekiah.
Hezekiah?
Yeah, he said, when I get down to the foot of the hill, that I'm going to take off mortality
Yeah.
and put on immortality.
Yes. Yes.
And here was a guy that finished the third grade. And I'm wondering, we used to wonder, where does the inspiration come from to create this kind of phraseology and to be able to say it with conviction and me and my buddy, when we were kids, we'd be trying to wonder, my dad might be praying, or some of the other men, it would just be my father, to say, step out on the front porch of high heaven.
Yeah.
And we'd be looking up trying to see if we could see what high heaven look down on us with an eye of pity and of most holy and tender compassion.
Yes.
To drop one drop of your rich blood in my heart for Jesus' sake. Say, search.
Yeah.
Check me out.
Check.
Search and research
Yeah.
my deceitful heart.
Yes.
And if you find anything like sin of evil,
Yeah.
cast it out into the sea of forgetfulness,
Yes.
where it will never rise. And we'd be trying to figure out how deep is the sea of forgetfulness. How deep is that sea?
Ladies and gentlemen,
So,
Congressman Davis is running for re-election on the 20th. Please, a dynamic leader, a man who's accomplished much, visionary, one who's in the community, one who is a political genius. This is a picture of he and his lovely wife, Vera. He's a family man. He's a deacon. He's a father. He's a grandfather. He's one who is a friend to the community. He's been my friend down through the years. I can't think of a time that he hasn't been there. I'm encouraging you to use your constitutional right to vote for a man who has been continuously on the battlefield. Please take this opportunity. All this legislation will just simply die if we don't do something to help keep him there. We need these policies, these laws, in order to make a difference. Please exercise it. Congressman, is there one last thing that you can say to the voters and the people that are listening? Word of wisdom.
the one thing I would say, Paul, is that when we all get to heaven,
well, I need to get on the piano.
what a day of rejoicing.
Lord.
We will all see Jesus.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
will shout
Yeah,
the
yeah.
victory.
Why not? Why not?
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, if life does not provide you with some opportunity for pleasure and enjoyment, then you've wasted life. I remember some of the songs that people used to sing during what we call the movement days. Like one song was, "Mammy, Mammy, tell me why was a black man born?" So somebody had to pick the cotton. Somebody had to pick the corn. Somebody had to fight for freedom. And that is why a black man was born. And you gotta keep fighting for this freedom. And without it, what do you have? Nothing. 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 But if you believe and you know that there is a source, that there's a God up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear singing in the air. Up above my head, I know that there's a God somewhere. Bless you and thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week on Love in Action. We thank Congressman Danny Davis for being our guest. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Thank you, Congressman.
All right.
Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
Nothing. 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 But if you believe and you know that there is a source, that there's a God up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear singing in the air. Up above my head, I know that there's a God somewhere. Bless you and thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week on Love in Action. We thank Congressman Danny Davis.